The recording's been started.
Thank you.
Tom Frey Dock and Barge. What we are requesting is dock storage, submerged lease, land lease for our dock storage permit that's been there since 1956. The original permit was L95-S-34-36 for dock storage at Rockford Bay. I think the issue where we come down to with the permit application is the existing permit is two things. The existing permit drawing that was done, like everything else back then, it's a little confusing. So here's our line of filings that are out there on the original permit application. That's where the docks have been stored. And then this is where they have a work area in here next to the county dock. We're not requesting the work area. We're not requesting to go back into the county area. We're not requesting to do that. We're just requesting to retain our dock storage in the original spot where it's been. We store roughly 50 docks. It varies year to year out there. And once again, it's all cabled together and then cabled back to the piling. And boom, since it has been out there since, well, I've owned it for 30 years and Jim Chase had it before myself, and he had it out there since the late 50s. Other than that, what else? If you have any questions for me in there.
Yeah, I have a couple questions here. So you referenced a permit. Is that permit currently in your name?
No,
And whose name is it in?
I believe it's Timothy Reeves. Only the marina originally. We didn't, when I bought the company 30 years ago, 28 years ago, we didn't think anything about transferring the permit into our name. It was just part of the contract that I had with the gentleman I bought the company from, who started the company in the late 40s or 50s. And that just didn't come up. It was just part of the contract when I bought it from him.
Okay, thank you. And since we're on that subject, so the work area along the shore,
Hasn't been in use since I've owned the company.
okay.
The work area from basically the public program.
Yeah, it appears there's some private docks that have been permitted in that
Yes,
same area
absolutely.
now. Yeah,
There's one piling in there that was the original one that was driven, just like the original piling that's out there from the storage. Two originals. Yeah.
and the piling that you're currently using were part of that original permit?
Yes, well, that's how it's shown on the permit. These piling,
Okay,
and that's where we are.
okay. I don't know if we have that original permit posted. We can,
We did.
okay,
We got it to the record.
we can certainly add it in, yeah. Okay. Great. So then you think that permit is still needed for the,
Absolutely. It's inside a slow and awake area. Navigation is minimal. There's, when we do get locked up in ice, the ice doesn't flow. We don't get wind. We don't get storms. Every dock that's stored in here is either on the south side of Rockford Bay, the north side of Rockford Bay, or Windy Bay. That's for the local people.
And Windy Bay,
Separate Windy Bay.
yeah, I was just gonna clarify.
Separate Windy Bay.
So this is Windy Bay,
Windy Bay on Coeur d'Alene.
south of Rockford, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. It's like Elk Creek, there's just too many of them in the state. Bay south of Rockford, okay.
We store the south side, Windy Bay, the north side of Rockford, all the way up to what we call Lighthouse Point.
Okay, and why do those docks need to be stored during the winter?
They'll get completely destroyed. They're in the direct path of the northern storms and ice.
Okay, so it's again,
Yes.
ice and wind. Okay. Coeur d'Alene, ice is over?
Yeah, it hasn't in 2 years, but it's mainly the north winds, north storms that take everything out on that south side of Rockford, and the southern storms that take everything out of the north side of Rockford. You combine that with low water down 8 feet, and docks are destroyed. There's no way around it.
Okay, so Coeur d'Alene also has issues with the lower levels in the winter?
Absolutely, yeah, it's down 8 feet from summer level. A maximum of 8. Somewhere usually between 6 and 8. You combine that with the wind, it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay. Great. Let's see. You've covered some of these,
We
so,
generally store from, depending on, we like to go when the water's down about a foot or a foot and a half to absolute most, because then we end up having to pull stuff off the beach a days later than that. So somewhere between a foot and a half usually happens sometime between late October and 1st of November. Anywhere from the 1st of October till the 1st of November. And then we generally bring them back when the lake's within a foot of summer level. Usually that's what we tell our clients is Memorial Day. It's the last weekend in May.
Memorial.
Memorial Day. Now there's some exceptions for that. I mean, sometimes we have flooding where it just is not possible. Generally is within a week or so. Or sometimes they're pulling the lake so much, just like this year, they didn't have it up to summer level until 5 days before Memorial Day. So there are some exceptions for extreme water level differences, and that's due to strictly to the mist on what they're doing to, snowpack wise and what they feel is happening at the lake level, how they can control it there. But 90% of the time, they have it within 6 inches of summer level by Memorial Day.
Okay. So the winter dock storage has been there for as long as you have owned the company?
As long as the IDL has pictures going back, as long as everybody has aerials going back, it's been in the same spot.
Okay. And how long has the year-round storage and barge and tug parking occurred? It appears that there's some year-round storage also occurring out there and some barge and tug,
Just my barge.
just your barge. Okay. So how long?
That has nothing to do with dock storage.
Correct. But for how long have you been parking the barge out there?
It depends on when we're there, when we're not, on and off for 25 years. That has nothing to do with the Department of Lands or submerged land lease.
It is a commercial use of the lake.
No.
So what would it cost to park the barges or the tugs at a commercial marina?
It's not us either here or there, because not regulated by you guys, by the state.
Does the state own the lake bed?
Yes,
Do we regulate commercial uses of the lake bed?
yes. But I'm
And
not using it commercially. I just drop my spuds and park them.
and just to clarify, winter dock storage is the proposal on the lease application. So what's currently moored out there at the storage area?
Right now, nothing, but that's not to say that it's not to say that I'm not gonna have my barge there in a week.
And what are customers charged for winter dock storage?
Same as it's about $425.
Could you speak up a little bit?
About $425 a year. It depends on the size of the dock, but that would be an average for ramp, dock storage, jet ski port, tow in, then put back.
Mhm. Okay. And how many piling have been placed in Rockford Bay in the current storage area?
I think there's 5 or 6. Same amount that's in 2, 3, 4, 5.
About how many customers use the winter dock storage?
In that particular bay, between, I said, I think, right around 50, give or take, it varies
Mhm.
year to year.
Okay. And what sort of historical management concerns have you had related to dock storage? Similar to the ones on Hayden or what?
I mean, management concerns in which way? We
So,
haven't had as much as we did on Hayden with people taking stuff in, but it happens. I mean, it happens anywhere. I wouldn't say as much, but probably close to 70%. You know, we still have that 1 or 2 guys or 3 guys that tow crap in there and tie it up. Usually we can find, you know, there's always something, you know. That's it. I don't think that it's been that bad this year. I don't think we have had anybody come in this year at all. But then again, I haven't been down in Rockford this summer. We're kind of north.
okay. So you have piling out there right now. On Hayden, you were proposing to use 2,000-pound blocks. Could that be done here?
No. The reason why we're using blocks on Hayden is because of water depth.
Mhm.
There's really no need to drop anchors. Plus you have mud in there that you never get the anchors out. I mean, it's that minimum of that deep. And you set them down, you never see them again.
Okay, so the bottom is too muddy.
It's just solid. So
Okay,
that outboard piling is 80 feet long. It's 20 some feet deep.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That outboard piling is an 80-foot piling. It's 20 some feet deep there.
So it's pounded in about 40, 60 feet, yeah.
60, 40. Maybe non-recoverable in there.
Okay. Great, I think at the current time, that's all the questions I have. Great, thank you. Okay, actually, let's go ahead and start with our online guests. Let's go ahead and start with Lisa Armstrong.
I don't think it's fair that you start right out with me, but I will dive in. My comments are new comments, but I also want to make sure that the comments that were submitted to the Idaho Department of Lands and the Land Board Commissioners on October 15, 2020, by myself and 26 other Rockford Bay property owners are also included with these comments. The overcrowding in Rockford Bay. First thing, Rockford Bay is an active aquatic recreation destination, more so now than it ever has been. It cannot accommodate an industrial business on the public waterways, along with the dozens of existing waterfront properties, 2 very busy marinas, a public restaurant, a bar, and a gas dock. Rockford Bay does not have the space to safely harbor all these businesses and activities. It's really frustrating to be, well, IDL determined that Frey would fail obtaining an encroachment permit due to lack of littoral rights in Rockford Bay. So it's really frustrating to be facing the same request, but under a different title. But I believe, Eric, if IDL uses the same legal guidelines for the Frey submerged land lease requests that were used for North Idaho Marine and Coeur Bay, I think the decision should be really clear. Notably, that 2-part test in the Kootenai Environmental Alliance versus Panhandle Yacht Club. The navigational hazard that Frey Dock's industrial business has created in Rockford Bay is huge. Safe ingress and egress into Woodland Park Marina in the back of the bay has been directly affected by the unauthorized placement of Frey's mooring line, pilings, docks, and barges. Although the application permit that Mr. Frey refers to, he refers to winter dock storage, the pilings, the log booms, the cranes, the workboats, and the mooring equipment are left in place year-round, creating a year-round navigational and safety hazard. The proposed dock storage is in a very narrow section of Rockford Bay with the width of approximately 500 feet between Black Rock Marina now and the south shore of Rockford Bay. Frey is asking for approximately 1.2 acres of storage in a 5-acre area in that back bay. In comparison, IDL set guidelines for North Idaho Marine in Coeur Bay at 5 acres of storage within 400 acres of the bay. That's a huge difference. And Mr. Frey states that he's been legally permitted to store docks in Rockford Bay since 1989 and is now stating that the placement of the storage and the corresponding work area seem confusing. Eric, IDL's April 20th, 2020 non-compliance letter to Mr. Frey and the supporting documents to Frey Dock and Barge clearly disputes that position. Not only has Frey been storing docks in Rockford Bay unpermitted for decades, it expanded the storage area away from the North Shore. I've never heard that stated as a work area, and there are historical photos that I believe that the neighborhood submitted to IDL that show that that North Shore was a storage area, not a work area, because there is a historical photo that shows that. And so this is the first I've ever heard that that was a work area. And then the middle of the bay was the storage. So, and then Mr. Frey also says that those pilings that are existing now are what existed to the 1989 permit. And that is not true. Those pilings that exist now in that bay were moved in September of 2019 further south into the bay. So there were a lot of things that Mr. Frey had indicated about that previous encroachment permit that I'd also like to expand upon. That permit, which I understand was not in his name, was issued for 1989 to 1990, 1 year. That permit was contingent on also obtaining a submerged land lease, which I don't believe was ever obtained. And so 1 year, we're in 2021. I don't know anyone that would try to use a permit from that long ago and say it's still valid. And Frey is requesting expansion with this new submerged land lease. He states that he's been legally permitted to store. But this request that he's making is this movement of these pilings from 2 years ago. So this request for expansion clearly and substantially impairs the public interest in the waters remaining, which is very clear in that two-part test in the Kootenai Environmental Alliance case. Idaho Fish and Game sent a letter to IDL in November 2nd, 2020, and advised that Frey's dock storage be away from the Fighting Creek Channel. They also mentioned the correlation between pike predation and dock storage. Over the past 20 years, I've witnessed firsthand the increase in pike anglers in Rockford Bay. Eric, I asked that IDL heed the advice of Fish and Game and at the very least require Frey to supply a third-party impact statement resolving the concerns of Idaho Fish and Game in an effort to create a habitat for Lake Coeur d'Alene's native species. There's been a lot of discussion about dock storage being a necessity. In my opinion, dock storage is a choice. When a lakefront property owner applies for an encroachment permit, they are required to submit a drawing depicting the exact location for their permanent dock. At no time that I'm aware of during that application process does the homeowner inform IDL that that dock will only be at that location for 4 months of the year. Specifically, IDL's single-family dock application requires that docks must be designed and installed to withstand normally anticipated weather conditions. Winter storms are normal in North Idaho and definitely on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Harrison Dock Builders recently confirmed that as they see more and more customers upgrading their docks and the advances in dock construction, they try to design a dock that does not need to be stored. If homeowners choose to relocate their docks 8 months out of the year, it seems that they are not in compliance with IDL's dock permitting requirements. I'm an Idaho native and I've owned property in Rockford Bay for more than 20 years. It's not my intent to keep Frey Dock and Barge from conducting its business. I encourage IDL to take a thoughtful approach to the dock and barge industry in Coeur d'Alene and determine how to create a long-term acceptable solution for all parties involved. I really appreciate and thank everyone at the Department of Lands for the opportunity to present our opposition tonight to this application through this public meeting. Thank you.
Welcome, thank you. I have a quick question for you, Ms. Armstrong.
Okay.
You mentioned that the activities in Rockford Bay are getting pretty crowded or overcrowded even. If we're just talking winter dock storage, how much use is going on in Rockford Bay during the winter, that October 1 through Memorial Day roughly?
Well, and that's the thing, I tried to indicate that in my navigational hazard. There's a lot of fisher persons in Rockford Bay because of the pike. And that is going on all the time. And those docks, I've seen fishermen out on those docks. I've seen them all around them. So the fishing is a year-round event in Rockford Bay. So there is activity. And then the other thing is, it's not just those docks. It's everything that's left behind. It's the mooring line, it's the log booms, it's those cranes and the barge. I mean, I understand that Mr. Frey says his barge comes and goes. Well, I can tell you that that barge comes a lot more than it goes. And with his barge there, other dock builders bring their barges in. And so they're there year round too. It's like the last few years, it seemed like it's just become a parking place. So, Rockford Bay is different than a lot of the bigger bays because of the width of Rockford Bay. It's so narrow that there is a lot of year-round activity out there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Eric.
Okay.
Can I address this?
We'll circle back to that at your closing comments.
Okay.
Great. So then let's go to Stephen. I do not know your last name. Could you let us know what that is?
Yeah, last name is Young.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here just to pay attention and listen. I don't have anything to say at this point.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for tuning in. All right, so then we will go to Fran and Maureen Bitar.
Sure. My name is Fran Bitar. This is my wife, Maureen. We're property owners out off Woodland Shores. We've been there for 3 years. Just a couple of points. Also, I'm on the board of the Woodland Water and Sewer. So this is really my first time I've ever partaking in a hearing like this. So I'm going to just kind of go down and just present some questions. I don't necessarily need the answer at this moment, but a couple of points that the Coeur Bay permit. Coeur Bay is a big bay compared to Rockford Bay. There's approximately only 15 homes on that bay. Rockford Bay, south side of the Woodland Shores area, there's 125 homes on the water system there. And we get our water from that Rockford Bay.
Your domestic water.
Domestic water, yeah. There's a permit through that goes up into a filtering plant that goes down to the 125 homes. So that water is obtained in Rockford Bay. There's a concern as the amount of activity in that bay increases. There's an issue about water quality. I know storing a dock there is not a water issue. It has to do with the barges and the cranes. This last June, there were 2 cranes there. Those booms are approximately 16 feet high. These cranes are roughly 60 feet long, 40 feet wide. And they're moored right where all the docks were. I put my boat in about May 8th or so. And I actually have bringing that in, there were 2 barges there. And I had to swing really close to the south side of the marina just to get my boat to the Woodland Shores docks where we store our boats. I'm gonna say there's approximately 50 or 60 boats that are stored at Woodland Shores Marina. The other issue is the pilings that Mr. Frey was talking about, his 6 pilings. As of right now, I believe only 2 are vertical. I swim there almost every day. The mooring telephone poles roughly in size that are chained together that stretch roughly 150, 200 feet down the lake. The chain is currently broken and it has swung roughly 100 feet towards the south shore. There are approximately 3 or 4 of these large pilings that have already tipped over and are just under the water. So there's a navigational issue with these pilings that are not being maintained. So that brings the question with the barges in the dock storage, and it's been 20 plus years that there's been an active permit. What guarantee do I have, or do we all have from IDL, that it will be monitored? And that there won't be an encroachment on the shoreline, south or north? So a couple of questions, or not questions, that I'd like to answer, or my concerns. One is safety. The north end of, well, it's not the north end. The east side of Woodland Shores Park, there's a swimming point where I swim, where my grandchildren swim. I've noticed that boats have had to move farther south in the early part of the summer or in the late summer. And you got swimming going on there. So I have a concern about safety. I have a concern about the water quality for Woodland Shores Water and Sewer. The issue of storms. I grew up in Michigan with the storms there. Most people pulled their docks out of the water and put them on the beach and they'd survive. They have gone lately to more durable dockings that can survive the storms in northern Michigan, which are probably 20 times worse than here. That's about all I have to say.
Just one question. Are you representing Woodland Shores or are you just here?
Well, I'm on the board and I thought the president of the board, so yes, I represent Woodland Shores for
Okay.
the concerns since I'm on the board. Yeah.
Water and Sewer Association.
Water and sewer. Okay.
Yeah. Woodland Shores Water and Sewer Association.
Water, okay.
So.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, and I do have a picture. I don't know if I can give it to you or not.
You can email it to one of us or you can get it to us before the end of the day on the 29th.
Okay, I can email it to you. I'll get you.
Okay, talk to him.
Description of what the photo.
Oh,
This is a photo of Rockford Bay,
on May 13th.
May 13th, I took it. When you look at this picture, all the docks on the south side of the bay are in place. And in the middle, there's roughly still 40 docks. So I don't know where these extra docks, like you mentioned, are coming from. I'm just saying it's creating an issue in Rockford Bay. And it's outside of the bay where the docks are coming from. And then there are other bays that are not populated where these could go. And the other issue would have to be the barges. You have these industrial barges parked 100 feet off the shore. That's it.
We can make a copy of that at the end of the hearing, because there might be other documents that will scan and copy.
Sure.
I have the original, I could email the PDF too.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Can I piggyback on something Fran said, or do we need to go in order?
You can go next if you want. Okay. And what's your name?
Piggy, on the lawn.
Fonda Long. Okay.
And I didn't realize that our written comments were gonna be included here, but I have filed a written comment, so I don't need to address what I have in there, but I did want to piggyback on something that Fran just said, because, and again, to reiterate, it's not so much the winter storage, it's all the stuff left behind that's there year round. And it seems to move around. And like Fran said, it's not so much the vertical stuff, it's horizontal stuff. I don't know what you call all of them, but it's the horizontal stuff. And when they first moved things a bit, my daughter was driving our boat out and they almost hit one of those because it was just submerged just under the water. So you couldn't see it all the time. It was just the water would ebb and flow. And I guess my point would be, it hasn't historically been very well managed or monitored. It seems to me that when there's something like that out there that someone's put there, they ought to at least have some kind of flagging on it so you can see it. And so that would be, and I agree with a lot of what's been said in terms of, it's a very congested bay. This seems like the least likely location to add something like barge storage.
Great, thank you. Okay, then we'll have Carrie, and Carrie, I'm not sure what your last name is.
Kerry Williams.
Carrie Williams,
Williams.
come on up.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I sure appreciate it. Again, I'm Kerry Williams, CARYWILLIAMS. I'm a resident of Woodland Shores. I'm also on the board of WPI. I don't know that they would all say that I'm representing them, but I guess I am. I saw all these letters of support, and I can appreciate that. Many of them, I think, refer to Alene Lake.
Some of them do, some of them don't.
And some of them are not even signed.
We're gonna get sorted out the Hayden Lake ones from the
Okay.
Rockford one. So we will do that on our website over the next few days.
Okay, all right. And a lot of this has been said, I'll try to say it in a little different way. I think the picture that's been painted by the objective of the permit is for winter storage. And I can tell you, it looks pretty clean right now. I was out there last week. I'm out there most every week. It looks pretty clean, like it should right now, but I think that may have been done in anticipation of this hearing, which I don't blame that either. The question I have, and I've got a few points here, the permit. My records are showing that a permit came from 1969, and it was from the North Shore. And I think it was attached to the Rockford Bay resorts. So since 1969, there has been no permit. I don't know what the permitting fees are. I don't know what is going on there, but this seems a little egregious that there would be an allowance to operate since that time. 2019, the pilings that were there seem to be mysteriously moved overnight under cover of darkness further south. I can only suspect, I can only imagine that shooters may have asked the applicant to move the pilings further away from their business. So you mentioned, Mr. Frey mentioned that these were the original pilings. They may be the original pilings, but they got moved. Okay, I don't know if they're the same, you use the same ones over again or not, but they got moved. I do have a question, and I don't know. I'm asking this question because I don't know. It's not a hypothetical question. Does the Idaho Department of Lands have jurisdiction over the Coeur d'Alene Indian Reservation submerged lands?
That question I can answer. We lost a court case. I don't remember what year it was, but the state of Idaho does not own, generally speaking, the lower third of the lake. There is a point at which the tribal ownership crosses the lake and then goes to the south shore, and then it follows the south shore for a while. If you look at their tribal boundary maps, you can get a pretty good idea where that is.
The tribal boundary maps that I have seen show the line going almost directly through the middle of Rockford Bay. And on a GPS unit, it shows the boundary going right through the middle of Rockford Bay.
I could add something to this. I'm Mike, the supervisor for the program and permitting. On the west side of the lake, we go all the way to Maury Point Campground, and that's as far as we go. As you get south into, I think it's Cottonwood Point right there, or Spokane Point, Cottonwood area, we don't do anything south of Maury Point. On the east side of the lake, it's right below the city of Harrison. On that one drive, there's kind of like a waterfront drive right there. We handle those houses, and at the end of that road, we stop.
Okay.
So it's kind of hit and miss on either side.
Yeah, well, I just noticed on the map, the line for the reservation, if you go out on the highway, it pretty much shows the line going.
You know where Stevens Point is right there.
Yeah.
Going from Stevens Point.
Okay, I was just asking a question.
Yeah, and
We have-
not knowing.
Woodland Shores is on the reservation.
Okay. And not knowing who published the map, I can't speak to its veracity, but
That-
my understanding is that part of the lake is the tribal ownership follows shore, and then at some point it kicks off into the uplands.
Got it. Also, this has come up too, and I think that if the storage were from October and May, that might be a different subject, but I think there's been an egregious use of a year round. There have been years where derelict docks have been moored all year long. And everybody's mentioned the big barges that are there, and I assume it's for a pile driving business. And Mr. Frey mentioned it's no commercial use. I would call that commercial use. Storing a boat on, or parking a boat, mooring a boat on Idaho Lake property. So I think there's and nobody said this outright, it's an eyesore. I think we talk about the beauty of our lakes, the tranquility of our lakes, and it's an eyesore. Anyway, I think that what we came here to talk about depicted the storage is not the whole truth. There's additional use. There's been movement of the pilings, and I don't know that any permit fees have been paid by Mr. Frey to the state of Idaho. You would have to answer that question.
I would have to refer back to the notice of non-compliance that we issued last year. I don't remember exactly what all the points were in that letter, but I believe that, is that posted as part of the record?
I'll have to open my hand.
Any questions?
No,
Okay, thank you.
great, thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It doesn't look like it's on the record. Should we add that to the record? We'll probably talk about it.
We can talk about it later. And. Okay, Mr. Frey, I think we're back to you.
I'd just like to address Mrs. Armstrong, or Miss Armstrong, I'm not sure, on the Fighting Creek coming in there. The Fighting Creek inlet comes in underneath the Rockford Bay gas dock. Nowhere near our storage. That's why they have to take the gas dock every single year out now. And
Could we request to turn up the audio,
I'm sorry.
please?
what I'm saying about about Fighting Creek coming in. The channel now has moved since they put in the marina. And that channel comes in directly underneath the gas dock now. That's why they have to pull the gas dock out every single year to move it. As for the two pilings you say that are laying over, are they in back of the bay?
These are where your, what do you call your horizontal?
I think they're talking about the booms that are out floating,
The ones that
yeah,
are chained together.
Boomstick.
boomsticks, yeah.
Boomsticks. Towards the end, it's broken off and it is swung about 100 feet in. And I swim out to the submerged ones.
Okay,
all
so
the
not
time.
the piling, the boomstick.
No, pilings. Well, I don't know what it is. It's underwater and it's big.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's like 3 of them.
All right. The inboard piling were originally, I didn't drive those. Those have been in there for who knows how long. We actually took fish and game in there, put goose nests on them 18 years ago. I did not drive those. I did not drive the outboard when we drove the center 3 ones or whatever it was. But addressing the Fighting Creek portion of it, that's why they're having to move that. That channel has moved dramatically and will probably still continue to move dramatically over the next few years, depending on what happens with the marina in there.
I have some aerial photos I can send you.
Yeah.
Where you can see how it does this whole snake down the channel.
And it's changed over the years dramatically. So. As for navigation, that's the reason why that is an excellent spot for storage and why it was chosen years and years and years and years ago, because it's inside the Alene Lake, really. It's deep enough water so they don't go aground. It doesn't affect, being inside the Alene Lake, it doesn't have any effect on navigation in there, especially with the existing piling that have been there since the 50s or 60s. As for aesthetics, it's always great that everybody hates the dock builder until they need a dock builder, and then it's a different story, Aesthetics is aesthetics. In order to do what you guys want to do on the lake and have your docks and have your boats and have everything else, there has to be a guy like me that's going to fix them, and that's going to drive the piling, that's going to do everything else for you.
So if you didn't drive the outermost piling,
The innermost,
the inner, I thought you said the inner and the outer.
the inner and the outer. Yeah, I did not drive either one of those.
So who put in the outer one?
Old man Chase, Jim Chase, who I bought the company from.
Okay.
We don't utilize that inside piling at all. It's just, they have 2 nests on it. It's always been in there.
May I clarify that statement?
I think when he's saying inside, he's actually heading towards.
Into the bay,
No.
the landward
There are
one.
2 pilings stuck in the bay. He's tied up to the ones, if I'm looking out the bay on the south side. Directly to the left, there's another one about 30 feet away, and then about another 50 feet away is the Rockford Bay Marina. And these 2 pilings line up with each other. Then this pole goes completely south or west towards the back of the bay. The pole lines on there. That's where I'm talking where the things are tipped over.
Was there a diagram in the application? Don't recall.
Yeah. And I just literally pulled measurements because he was speaking about how he couldn't get around the storage. We literally pulled from that corner is 204 feet. That corner is 264 feet to the boomsticks.
So
I don't know which one.
When was this photo taken, or is this real time?
It says on the bottom, it says August 13, 2020, with this image on Google. It's a Google Earth. For folks that are on Zoom, We pulled open a Google Earth image, and the image is dated August 13th, 2020 of Rockford Bay.
Can Chris make you a presenter so those folks can see it?
You can back up from here and look at it.
Mr. Hearing Coordinator, who would you like to be a presenter?
Mr. Mike Gamer.
Give me one moment here.
Your last name's been changed, Mike.
There we go. I went ahead and made him a co-host. He should be able to present.
Okay. Perfect. That'll work.
So Mike, if you,
Chris, can you confirm that you can see the Google Earth image?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
so this is what we're talking about on the Fighting Creek channel. This is it right here.
Yep.
Going right underneath the gas dock. She's referring to it's coming out here. No, it's coming right like this and going right underneath the gas dock.
So where's your goose box? So it's
That's where it
on,
was. That's where it's. I don't think
that's where it
was
was.
either.
Okay. So on this east-west trend of what we see as boomsticks, it was near the west end.
Yes,
of the boomsticks. Okay.
that's where it was. We don't tie it back here at all for any storage.
So
I have
then,
from about this point.
where are the three piling that you drove?
Well, it's hard to see. There's probably, there's the original one there. There's one original, one there, there's one there. I believe there's one there and then the old.
There's no pilings on that.
There's no piling down here.
No. There's only two. There's one there, one there. This was swung out.
There's one
These
right
things
there.
here.
I know there's one right there.
Because I'll swim out to these right here. And this used to be like that. You can see these and they have chain on them. So it used to connect back here as a straight line from here. Now that's broken out into the channel of the boat.
So to clarify, if you're not tying things up back here, is there a need for this boomstick?
No, we could
to be
eliminate probably
in and
1,
out?
2, 3 sticks here to that piling.
Could I ask another question, please?
Let me clarify a few more points here. So how useful are boomsticks that are half sunk?
They're not. They're not awesome. So what you got to do is take a look. What they are is what they do is they hold it in. We don't tie to the boomsticks, we tie to the piling that are there. So we run a cable from that outboard piling, the outside bay piling. We run it through all the deckings and cleats all the way around the outside and then go to the farthest piling back that we deem necessary where there's enough water back there. And that's what we do with it. The boomsticks just keep everything from flowing that way
From flying which way?
towards the marina.
Okay, so they're just to corral anything that may break loose. So during the summertime, could they be secured closer to the piling?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're already against all the pilings. And if there's 2 or 3 that are tagged out on the bottom end, we can remove them. So it's we're remove them up to the last piling. That's if they are tagged. The problem.
So if there are multiple barges being parked out there, do you know who else is parking barges?
Could be Harrison, could be North Idaho. When everybody's working in one area or another, they're not gonna run all the way home. You're burning 20 gallons an hour. And if Harrison's building a dock in Rockford, they're gonna drop their spuds in the back of Rockford. If we're building a dock in Lost Bay, we're gonna drop our spuds in the back of Lost Bay. If we're building up in Beauty, we're gonna drop our spuds in the back of Beauty. It just depends on where we're working and how much work we're doing on Coeur d'Alene or how much work we're doing on Dayton. It all depends on where you are.
Does every barge have a spud or some just?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, what's a spud? It's what holds them into the ground. It's 2 sticks that come out of the barge.
So you're calling the barge the whole platform with the crane? And then you also have the barge that pushes the crane.
That would be a spud.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted,
Yeah.
I didn't know what that.
A spud is also used for the old bucket line dredges that used to go up and down streams and rivers, and they would anchor one end of the bucket line dredge with a big old iron spike in the ground, and then they would move the dredge. that
What
way.
they are is they're on the front of the barge, so when you come into a spot,
It stabilizes.
and you drop it to the bottom and then you pivot on that, or you drop the other one and pivot on it that way, or if you're just parked for the weekend, you just drop it. Drop 2 of them, or 3 of them, depending on where you are.
So you're not tying up to the piling.
So we're not anymore, we used to. And then we were told that we were not allowed to tie up to the piling, so we just drop our spuds. They're lit on top. Spuds are-
Eric, this is Lisa. The Tatars have sent me a photo that shows 2 barges out in front up there. I don't know if I can submit them now, but I can definitely submit them when I send in my comments.
Was that the May 13th
No,
photo?
that's an aerial one. This is one when I was driving my boat.
Okay, yeah, you
You
can
just see the barges right there and there.
You can submit it up till, I think, close of business on the 29th is what we had.
Right,
So-
okay. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And as I said, we have 1 barge on Coeur d'Alene. and Harrison has 3, Murphy has 2, North Idaho has 3. So it could have been, I don't know who was working in there, who knows?
And I just say the barge never moved all summer, it just sat there the whole time. So I don't think they're working on anything.
It doesn't need a system.
Right. But they just parked it there because they don't want to work there, I think.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I had. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to provide comments, either written or oral?
I do. I have a couple more questions. And I guess these are nagging questions for me, and I just would ask you, sir. How do we ascertain
Could you identify yourself again for the record?
Kerry Williams?
Thank you.
Kerry Williams, yes. How do we ascertain why Mr. Frey moved his pilings further south in 2019? They were a lot closer to the Shooters Marina. And the other question is, what permit was used to move those pilings in 2019? From my understanding, you put pilings down, put a dock in, you need to get a permit from the state of Idaho.
So I can partially answer that. The reason we are going through this meeting and the one earlier today and the one tomorrow is coming out of the North Idaho Maritime Coeur Bay hearing decision signed by the director. We are beyond the line of navigability. And you are correct, encroachment permits are not issued beyond the line of navigability. So we've been given direction to use submerged lands leases to authorize these commercial activities beyond the line of navigability. So, and that decision was signed in December of last year. So that's why we're not talking about encroachment permits tonight. We're just talking about a lease.
Okay.
As far as why the piling moved, I can't answer that. Again, all I can do is point back to the notice of noncompliance that we issued last year and the points highlighted in it.
Cannot Mr. Frey answer that?
We can see, Mr. Frey, have the piling in fact migrated southward?
We moved 3 piling out because of one talking with John Magnuson about the marina, his possible expansion out, and water depth issues because of the marina. But they stayed in the same line, and that's the original one that you're talking about, and that's the other one. This one we moved out 30 feet. And the other one was whatever it was. You can draw a straight line across it from there.
I don't suppose you have anything in writing from Mr. Magnuson?
No, but you're
requesting
more than
this?
welcome to call him. He just talked to us.
Oh, I love having discussions with him.
I just talked to him on my way down here tonight, actually. John and I are good friends.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so it is now 7:14. And I would now adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much for attending, either via Zoom or in person. Appreciate your comments. And we will endeavor to provide a recommendation to the director within 30 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris?
Derek.
You may stop the recording.